Hi, Dr. Wesley.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, it's good morning or good evening, depending on where we are.
It's morning here. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning here, and I think it is 8 o'clock night at your place. So
Yes, it
I
is.
I think you're having a good evening at your place,
Yes, I am. Now that
right?
you're on board, yeah.
Awesome, awesome, right? So which part of the states are you at right now?
Oh, Pennsylvania. It's right
Pennsylvania, right?
in the
Pennsylvania,
central
right?
Pennsylvania.
Central
It's also
Pennsylvania.
fun for me to be the one answering the questions. For 7 years, I was a co-host of an online radio show. I used to ask you
Exactly.
the questions.
And now, yeah, answering questions. Yes, I
Yeah.
actually went through your website and I saw a lot of different things that you have dabbled on before. You've been teaching for 33 years. You've also been a host, interviewing celebrities and things like that.
Yeah.
And you are a book reviewer. You
Yes.
are also an author. So you've taken quite a number of roles in your life. So I think it would be appropriate for us to start this interview session off by having you to tell us a little thing about yourself, a little bit about yourself.
Okay. 150 words or less. Who is Wesley Britton? Well, Wesley Britton grew up in this area, and then I moved down to Texas, and I was down there for about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I have been a lot of different things. I have been a drummer, but I got a
Mm-hmm.
new electronic drum set, so music's all still part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I nonfiction books. All four of them are on espionage, and spy
Mm-hmm.
TV, or in the movies, or and in literature and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been it was my big reputation for a while. I
Mm-hmm.
have written jillions of encyclopedia articles and book reviews and essays and things like that on all
Mm-hmm.
the subject. I love to read in a myriad of genres. I like biographies, autobiographies, mysteries, and of course science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we're getting into science fiction pretty heavily here in a few seconds. I
Mm-hmm.
married for 19 years to my wonderful wife Betty, who left us last April 26th of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, well, I'm talking to you about the
Uh-huh.
Beta-Earth Chronicles series.
Right. Okay, good. So, um, coming to your books, right? Coming to your books, tell us a little bit about how you actually started writing. When did you start? When did you started writing? And how did all this actually happen? Started.
Oh, well, the short version to the long version. In terms
Short
of
version,
writing, that really,
short
that,
version, or
well,
long
okay,
version? Yeah, let's go with the long version. Probably it's interesting. Definitely, I think it would definitely be interesting to hear your story. So let's start.
okay. Well, my writing career really began back in the 80s when I was in grad school working on getting my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things they insist on is publish or perish. So my first real publications, although I had some before that, was writing scholarly articles on Mark Twain,
Mm-hmm.
Hawthorne, and Edgar Allan Poe, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was the early 90s. I kind of got tired of that because you don't get paid for that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
only
Yeah.
other scholars read that stuff. So I started
Mm-hmm.
working for a place called, those days it was called Salem Press. I think they've changed their name since then, but I wrote for Master Plots and
Mm-hmm.
McGill's book reviews and golly, I can't remember. I wrote for tons and tons of the books that they had,
Mm-hmm.
articles and essays and things like that. So I really wrote nonfiction for a long time. I didn't really think I was ever going to be writing fiction. It just didn't seem to be part of my makeup. And toward
Uh-huh.
the end of that decade, I started writing a lot of poetry and did pretty well, actually.
Uh-huh.
Although for a while I was kind of worried. There's all my funny poems that got snapped up by all the public time. I was beginning to worry that no one's ever going to take me seriously. But then finally that started to work too.
Uh-huh.
I kind of got tired of writing short stuff. I wanted to do something longer. And
Mm-hmm.
after a few failed attempts at different things, I wrote what became Spy Television. And that was
Ah.
the first of the three books that were published by Prager Publishers up in Connecticut. They too have changed their name since then. I'm not sure what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of research. Everything was real research oriented. And that's really what I was doing was you know, reading up on the first book is all spy television shows and putting them in the genres decade by decade. And
Mm-hmm.
that it was Beyond Bond. And no, this, yeah, it was Beyond Bond, where I tried to talk about the history of espionage in the media, movies, television, everything, old time radio. It was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed that. And then the third one was On Screen and Undercover, the ultimate book of espionage, and it was all about movies.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is there you can still get those. Those are hardbound, but they're expensive because Prager Publishers markets basically to libraries.
Mm-hmm.
All these years, I wonder why they haven't put out a paperback of all those books because you could sell more copies, but that doesn't seem to be in their DNA.
Plan.
So that's why I wrote the Encyclopedia of TV Spies
Mm-hmm.
and pushed it through Bear Manor Media because it would be reasonably priced and the general public could get it. And all of those books got really lots of nice reviews, and I really enjoyed my years with espionage. I did all kinds of different things with that. Appeared at the International Spy Museum and gave presentations down there, and at the Mid Atlantic Nostalgia Convention. It was
Mm-hmm.
good season or seasons.
Okay, right. That is definitely something very interesting. From the 80s, I think you've started like about 30,
Yep.
30 over plus years right now
Yeah.
doing writing, right? I think ever since ever since your PhD days, I think you've been doing this.
Grad school. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So 33. So tell us a little bit about your teaching. I mean, you've been teaching
Ah.
for 33 years. So how did that happen? And yeah, I like your hat. So maybe you want to tell about the hat in your book also, right?
Well, teaching, boy, that's a long. Today, I was trying. Some people were asking me about that at a little hospice seminar that I was at, and I just it takes forever. They're saying, you have memorable students. Yep, some for good reasons, some for bad reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy all your classes? Well, that would depend. I can remember semesters where I go in at 8 o'clock, and that first class was lively, engaging, and I was so glad to see them. And
Mm-hmm.
down the hall to the next class, and my heart would keep sinking because I would know that guys were not going to be cooperative. They were going to fight everything. It's just,
Uh-huh.
and I taught when I was in Texas at, well, golly, 4 or 5 different colleges, and I taught
Mm-hmm.
at Key Prison
Mm-hmm.
for a
Mm-hmm.
year, different places, until I moved back home. I came back up here in, I guess it was 1999, and I started teaching at, well, I used to go to college at Harrisburg Ag Community College, and then I taught there, I guess, really not until 2015. And it was quite an experience, lots of experiences. Boy, I could go on
Mm-hmm.
that days and days and days and days.
Mm-hmm. So
Never stops.
what were you teaching? I mean, I know back
Oh,
then.
freshman English 101 and 102, and sometimes business writing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, really got my so I could teach literature. But when I came out in, what was it, 1990, thereabouts, there weren't many rooms in the inn for lit teachers. It just wasn't a booming, bustling market.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. So I really never got to teach a whole lot of literature. My PhD's in literature, mostly American literature of Mark Twain and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not very little of that. It just was the times, and well, that's how it
Yeah.
goes.
Ah,
What's the
right.
good part?
So yeah, coming to your books, the Beta Chronicles, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so tell us about your books that you have written so far, and how many books have you written so far, and tell us a little bit about your hat and the Beta Chronicles. I am interested in your hat. Yeah,
There's the other one.
right. Yeah.
Well, there are 6 novels and one collection of short stories, and another collection of short stories developing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, back when I was at Hack and I was sitting in my office and had time to burn in between classes,
Mm-hmm.
closed my eyes and this concept came to me. What would happen to a blind guy on another planet, zapped to another planet, where he knows nothing around him. He doesn't understand the language. He doesn't understand the culture. He doesn't know what happened to him. How would he survive? And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of the story going. So I created Malcolm Renborn, and he was kind of like me at the time. He was an adjunct professor of English, and he gets drug across to another planet where, yeah, he doesn't know the language. He thinks he's a prisoner. First, he thinks he's on a UFO. He has no clue what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He trained in the language and all of that. And then I started answering myself a lot of questions so I could, develop a story. I mean, if you got a guy over there, what is going to keep him under pressure? What's going to make him of interest for, a series of books?
Mm-hmm.
Can't be anything he brought with him. They just take it away from him. It can't be really anything in his head. I mean, his special knowledge. Well, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get that from him. What possibly could he carry or have that would make him of long-term interest? And that's when I came up with the plague with no name.
Ah.
Earth, what that is it's a plague that kills 3 out of 4 male babies their first year. So it's a world of women, 4 women,
Mm-hmm.
3 men, which leads to polygamy, naturally enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That got me going. And I also thought, okay, we can't keep him a prisoner forever. We've got to get him out there. My next thought was, well, I hope I don't hurt any Trekkies' feelings because I am a Trekkie. I love Star Trek. I have all the DVDs and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
poison men don't want to come back. It always drove me crazy about Star Trek is the Enterprise would come to a planet, circle around it.
Uh-huh.
On the planet, there might be one government, maybe 2 factions, and that's it. Well, obviously, you got to do that for a 1-hour TV drama.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no complexity to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, no, we're going to have a world with a lot of different cultures and different
Mm-hmm.
perspectives. And through the course of the first 4 books, which is really all I had mapped out when I got started, was he has to go around the world and gets involved in different scenarios in different countries and different cultures across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the things that I really wish more readers would have noticed about it is the culture. Well, a lot of readers have from the first reviews. I think it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of cultural anthropology because
Mm-hmm.
it's a typical sci-fi series. There's no spaceships and there's not many robots or things like that or hyper technology or weapons. It's not action adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Very character oriented series.
Mm-hmm.
Started right off with that. Well,
Right. Right. So talking about cultures, right? Incorporating different cultures, like how do you get your ideas, and how do you actually make up a whole storyline incorporating so many different cultures? Like how do you do that, and what kind of time investment that is required to read, to research? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
reading and research goes a heck of a lot of that. For example, I'm hold of women, so I wrote up on the Amazons because I thought that
Mm-hmm.
might be ideas, and it kind of did. Well, a lot of the cultures and countries are, based on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One country that's very clearly modeled on England. You can see that as you go through the series, and another that's modeled on France. And um, Balakan is us in reverse
Mm-hmm.
because it's blacks enslaved whites, or the blueskins is what they call them over there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Country above it is, pretty Canadian, I suppose you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I went to great pains to invent all kinds of different ways that things would happen. And where all
Mm-hmm.
that came from, I couldn't tell you. Just um, well,
Okay.
one thing is being blind and
Yes.
to a different world eased up on things because I didn't try to have to be accurate in describing places and things like that. It was
Okay.
all made up. It was all
All
completely.
right.
Well, book 6 did
Mm-hmm.
bring them back to our planet, Alpha, that the
Mm-hmm.
next generation comes here and it's 40 years in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to kind of really get into that kind of research. But for the other books, Science. Boy, did I have to look up stuff on science. In fact, after
Mm-hmm.
Alien came out, there's a Greek doctor who read the book and pointed out a few things about DNA that I needed to change, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Return to Alpha and the stories that have come out since then. What's the impact of global warming? What is going to happen to the planet? What kind
Mm-hmm.
of changes are going to lot of, and boy, I keep finding stuff all the time I hadn't thought of. Like the other day, I saw a report that in the
Mm-hmm.
army is going to be providing a lot of the resources we're going to need in the future. I'd have
Mm-hmm.
known that earlier because Alpha Tales is set in Canada.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Just didn't
Right.
know.
Yeah. So, coming to blindness, right? And
Hmm.
tell us about because you lost your eyesight somewhere in the mid 20s, and
Started here, yeah.
started mid 20s, right? So, tell us a little bit about the genetic defects that actually led to the loss of your eyesight, and also tell us about how this actually affects your writing. You know how you actually incorporate blindness into your characters.
Well, okay, my blindness came along progressively. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
it's before I knew it. I can remember friends telling me, "You're not paying attention." I thought
Um,
stupid. I thought I was goofy. When
okay.
they noticed that I had RP and I realized I was going blind, weirdly enough, my first thought was relief. That explains it. That's why I'm doing all these things. I can't see.
Uh-huh,
That it wasn't relief. It was really pissed off.
uh-huh.
And over the years, well, actually, my first real publication was in the Dallas Morning News. How to talk to a blind person.
Okay.
A lot of other blind people, and a lot of people ask us all the same kinds of questions and ask,
Yeah.
treat us the same way. And so that developed into kind of a list of 10 things, don't ask us this. We're sick of answering it.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have a dog? Isn't there anything doctors could do
Mm-hmm.
on, on? But, the most common questions are like when you're in a restaurant where waiters and waitresses, they'll get really loud because when you're blind, you go deaf too. Didn't you know? Um, well, I can tell you some silly
My
stories, and
goodness.
hey, we got plenty of
Yeah.
time. But
Uh-huh.
that kind of what mostly impacts me in terms of writing is I have to use speech software.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
called JAWS, and it
Mm-hmm.
reads things out aloud, and then typing it reads words back to me, and my whole writing process is built around technology. Thank goodness for it. And as I
Mm-hmm.
was going to grad school, I didn't have that stuff. Nobody did. It
Mm-hmm.
took later on for it to kind of kick in, but that's a big part of it. Now, in terms of the characters, there's two blind characters in the Beta-Earth Chronicles. There's Malcolm, who is drugged from this earth to that earth and the blinded. So he kind of starts off in a lot of emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
and, actual physical pain when he's first drugged over. And he goes, well, I want to keep him under pressure all the way through the series.
Mm-hmm.
To keep Malcolm, he's a fugitive. He's an outcast. He's, disabled. And he has a heart attack toward the end of the first book. So he's always got something that's putting the pressure on him.
Uh-huh.
Character
Right.
is Lore, who's a farm girl up in our Canada, and on that it's Rasvi.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're farm girls, and she's also a prophetess. She has the gift of Olos, where she can see the future from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But she was blind from birth, so well, that's one thing I've learned over the years is that everybody seems to think that blindness is a universal thing, and everybody's blind is blind. It's totally dark. Well, that's not true. And everybody
Mm-hmm.
blind has these reactions to things. Well,
Mm-hmm.
not true. So by having her who's
Mm-hmm.
blind from birth and him who is just whacked, like that, it's two completely different perspectives. Here's a thought
Mm-hmm.
about. I had a friend of mine for a long time who said, in one eye he sees nothing, and in the other eye he sees black. And I had to think, what the heck does that mean? In fact, I used this in the second book, the difference between nothing and black, and I had to think about it. The black, you perceive something. You
Mm-hmm.
the absence of color. Nothing. You perceive nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference, you know. I think that's kind of
Yeah, I actually read on that because I was actually going through your interview, I think your previous interview or something.
oh,
And I was able to read on this, and you actually sort of made it a point to tell the readers out there that darkness, complete darkness and nothingness is actually, those two things are actually different, right?
yeah,
It's especially for someone who has been blind from birth. I think they don't have the sense of
right.
darkness at all,
Well,
right?
in this case, you know, one eye was dark, one eye was nothing. That's
Correct.
the point was. The
Yes.
between people who were born blind, or I guess any disability when you get down to it, and those of us, me in the 20s,
Mm-hmm.
all they ever knew. That's how the world
Mm-hmm.
was blind.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in your mid 20s and you start to go blind, it is a hit between the eyes with a 2x4. Your
Mm-hmm.
whole identity goes upside down. Who you thought you were, you're not anymore.
Yep.
People who
Mm-hmm.
knew you before have as much of a hard time as you do adapting to who you change into being.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not fun. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, well, we're getting away from the books there, but that's oh man, I can go on for blindness for hours and hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, um, it affects. I mean, it definitely has affected the way that you have to carry out your daily routines and the things that you have to do on a daily basis and stuff like that, and which includes writing as well. So, uh, maybe tell us
Yeah,
a little bit.
especially description. That is my weakness, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Describe stuff, and other, you know,
Mm-hmm.
something all the editors all the way through the books would comment on. Who's this person look like? What's this look like? What color is in all this stuff?
Uh-huh.
Oh
Uh-huh.
no, but I better come up with it. So that was something
Right.
I had to
Yeah.
think about quite a lot. In fact, I wrote an article about an experience I had last year when me and my grandson went to see a movie, which I have not forgotten which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
Have those audio descriptive headphones you can wear when you go to movies. And in one particular movie, the descriptor was very, very good. He was
Mm-hmm.
vivid. He was talking about, you know, curtains in the windows blowing and what the candles looked like on the tables and what people's expressions were and
Mm-hmm.
the size of the hallways and all of that. And it flashed on me, that's something I need to do. And then it flashed on me, that's something all writers need to do. That's what we're
Correct.
on as writers, is trying to take what's visual and sensual, and sound, smell, you name it,
Uh-huh.
and put it all on the page.
Yes, exactly. So
And
trying to
it's
be as descriptive as possible, I think it is something that you have learned over the time to
keep
uh,
learning, still
keep
learning.
learning or keep learning. Yes, and I agree with you, but I think all writers have to learn about how to actually uh, put the emotions, put what they actually see, put what they could hear out there into the pages. I think this is one of the toughest things ever for a writer, I guess, to put it into words, I guess. So,
Yeah, especially now, because I read a lot of descriptions of what magazines and things are looking for.
mhm,
This is on shortness. Make it
mhm.
fast, make it brief. Well, if you're
Uh-huh.
that's going to whack back on character development. That's going to whack back on description. It's going to
Mhm.
be all plot. I worry about that a lot. I did one story specifically with that in mind.
Mhm.
It's probably a weak story. I don't know. I haven't got any feedback on it, but that's something to think about.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm. Your phone is ringing.
and
Right,
I'm not worried about it.
right. Yeah. So tell us about your writing process. How long does it take for you to complete a manuscript? Say maybe story development from the ideation. You putting it on paper. So yeah, how long does it take for you typically?
Phew, it takes a long time.
Uh huh. Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're, well, there's a big difference between writing nonfiction where you're just getting all the research and you're looking for the facts and you cobble together them and you organize them
Mm-hmm.
and
Correct.
creating stuff. Well, well, that's a hard question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because a certain amount of time, like with the first 4 books, where I kind of mapped out the whole series of those 4 books in my head, kind of like a big long daydream.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it was, a fairly long daydream. And then I had to come back and try to come up with a shape and a structure and how am I going to do it? And then I asked myself questions about things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a weird one. I don't know if I put this in anything you read or not, but one of the weird influences on me was the Beatles anthology.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
was a TV series, but they also put it out as a book. And I like oral histories because I like a lot of stuff about rock and roll. And when
Mm-hmm.
they have these oral histories, you have one band member talking about something for a while, and then another one, a slice from them, and then another one, a slice from them, and then they go around. And that's kind of gave me the structure for the Beta-Earth Chronicles, the first 4 books, is I wanted to have all of these different characters. And I thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
tell their own stories. So, like, the book begins with Bar talking, and then we
Mm-hmm.
hear Malcolm, and then as other characters get introduced, or major characters, they introduce themselves. They talk about their backgrounds and who they are and all that kind of stuff. And then as time goes by, they start talking about their interactions and relations with each other. So I spent time thinking about that, and I spent time thinking about, well, I got to create this dialect. I wanted them to sound different. They're on a different planet, after all.
Mm-hmm.
I do avoid getting bad with otherworld terminology. I'm not sure I succeeded at that. I may want to revise that in a new edition or something. But I
Mm-hmm.
gave different cadence of speech, and I wanted to give each of the characters their own rhythm, their own cadence. Like the less educated women, like Laurie and Elsbeth, would say, I be this and I be that. And then the more educated ones would be a little bit more articulate.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a lot of active verbs instead of I was aware. I awared. So
Uh-huh.
make
Okay.
it more active and move it along a little faster. Um,
Right.
like Old English. Well, I didn't have that in mind, but okay. What you hear, that's what you hear.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to have those rotating voices, alternating voices. And, well, what did I tell you that? I don't remember. That was giving me a structure. Oh, how
Right.
I think things out. Well, my God, there's just so many questions that you pose to yourself as you go along. Would this make sense? Would that happen? What would that, you know,
Mhm.
just bottomless.
So yeah, um, so maybe how long does does it take? Like probably 3 months, 6 months. Like what's the experience from your experience here?
I only remember because years, because I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I wrote the first book, there's a big catastrophic explosion,
Mm-hmm.
destroys, a big chunk of the city. And I remember when I came up with that, 9/11 happened after that.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid that people would associate 9/11 with the book.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't until 2015 that the book came out. So by
Uh-huh.
other things had changed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, too, I have to say timing is weird because back in those days, I was jumping back and forth between
Mm-hmm.
5 books and writing these books.
Okay. Right.
Work
Mm-hmm.
on nonfiction for a while till you get sick of it, and then you work on
Mm-hmm.
creative for a while, and then you go back and forth.
So
So
you
it took
don't.
a long time.
Yeah. So you don't really have a timeline for
No,
like completing a book or something like that. It just happens. It takes its own time. To be completed. In that
no.
case.
Well, then you get a draft done, and then you send it out to the wolves.
Uh
Let
huh.
people go through it, and with any luck, get some friends of yours to read the thing and give you some feedback and responses.
Uh-huh.
Then it ends up I was going to the publisher, although I'm not using the publisher anymore. I've gone self-pub.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, I have to admit, I can't really, it takes as long as it takes.
Right. So talking about getting a publisher. So all this while, when you're writing and also when you're publishing books, I assume that initially, I think you used a publisher, right? So
Yeah.
have you ever tried going indie?
Yes. The last book, Alpha Tales 2044, is indie.
Ah, right. Okay. So
That's what Alien Vision is. I'm not sure what shirt that
yeah,
was.
that is, yes, that is the correct one if
Oh, it
I'm
was? Okay. Alien Vision.
not.
That's my publishing. Alien Vision.
Awesome, awesome. Oh, Alien Vision is your own publishing
Yeah.
house. Cool. So, probably you would want to talk about, being using a publisher, traditional publishing, and also transitioning from traditional publishing to self-publishing. So, tell us a little bit about that and what you've learned over the years.
Well, I went with Bear Manor Media because they had done a pretty good job with my Encyclopedia of TV Spies.
Mm-hmm.
When we started the Beta-Earth Chronicles, immediately aware that for him, his main forte is doing entertainment books, books on
Okay.
TV, actors and things like that.
Uh-huh.
Something he kind of does with his left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts them out as ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, that will work. Ebooks, that's kind of the way things are going. So I
Mm-hmm.
pressed that out. And as time went by, well, can we get some print books? So I got the Blind Date
Mm-hmm.
available as a print, but it was the only one. But I have to admit, they didn't do a whole lot in the way of promo. I did all of that heavy lifting over the years, all kinds of different ways, everything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was my publicist, Karina,
Mm-hmm.
uh, suggested, well, why don't you do just try short stories and we'll put together an anthology and we'll do it through Lulu and
Mm-hmm.
complete control of it that way. No, that works for me. We'll try it that way. And
Mm-hmm.
plus, I could get a print version of it. And that came out last December, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm.
This year, one of my goals is to be able to go to signings. And of course, you got to have print books for them to be of any value.
Mm-hmm.
So, Blind Alien, I got that one. I'm going to have to talk with Bear Manor about getting the rights to the other books and if I could get them under my own control and
Mm-hmm.
put them out as print books because I've come to learn that yeah, you can say that ebooks are the way to go and the way of the future, but there's a whole lot of readers out there who want something in their hands.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with
And,
that.
and okay, well, I didn't have that audience for a long time, and I want to tap into that. So yeah, you can hold it, and I can go to book signings and sign it. What you can't autograph an ebook.
Yes, correct. Yep. I agree with you because I think I mean ebooks can be like the thing the next big thing or probably it is already getting the hype of it and stuff like that. But I think print books are still very much relevant to the publishing to the world of publishing because I think so many readers they actually love collecting books. They like to stack the books up in their house. So I think it is still one of the most relevant options to go with, I guess, because I actually recently published a book and. We are not really looking into ebooks yet because of
You're
because
going the other way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because the thing is, ebooks, the chances of it being, passed down from one person to another person are probably somebody's just gonna, take it and put it up on their own site and sell it. Things like that could happen. So at this
Good.
point of time, yeah, I mean, at this point of time, we are very much happy with our print book, and we have actually printed about 252 books and we have sold I think almost half the book within a week, 100 plus
Oh
books,
wow!
yes, within a week.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes, I mean, I mean, seeing how things are progressing, I think people are buying print books because they want us to literally autograph the book and give it to them. So they are enjoying print books, more than ebooks. So I think print books are still very relevant, like like what you said. So, yeah, coming to your choice of going, indie is actually because you said you have more rights over
Yes.
your books,
Oh yeah.
right?
You
And
get
also
print books out.
yeah, yeah, and also having more control. So not just that, I think when you choose to go indie, I think in terms of royalties and in terms of the revenues from your book sales, I think it all goes to you. Majority, I mean, I think all of it actually goes to you, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about that. When you when you were publishing under traditional publishers, how was it before, and how do you feel about the revenues?
Royalties.
Yes, revenue,
Well, my
royalty.
wife used to say that I was the man known by many, paid by few.
Okay.
Good summation of my life. Because I never really did get into writing to make a whole ton of money. In fact,
Mhm,
I knew from the beginning when I started this series, it was not going to be going on any bestseller list because my books are different. There's a double
mhm,
sword. If you want to be original, well, yeah, I am cutting edge. I am. Yeah, if there's anything anybody says, it's innovative, it's original. You will not have read books like this before. That's the most common reviews of my book. And
uh-huh,
I'm delighted because I'd set out to do just that. But
mhm,
also seems to limit the number of people who want to take it on.
mhm,
Come to
mhm.
learn there's a large readership that's pretty lazy. Not want
Right.
to be challenged. They want to be able to pick up that book, be entertained.
Mhm,
That's the
mhm,
way it is. Well, okay, it's fine. But that's
mhm.
not what I wrote.
Yes.
I'm going to be rich. Maybe famous, but not rich.
Uh-huh,
You
uh-huh,
know, the, well, plus when I did the spy books, I knew then those were a niche market.
mhm,
And a certain number of people who give that much of an interest in old spy TV shows and spy books and things like that.
mhm.
Devoted niche, like a pretty solid fan base, but you're not going to make a lot of money on it. Okay, accept that, deal with it. And I saw something as a couple months ago that there's like 50,000 books a day being published.
Yep. Mhm,
On earth are
mhm,
you going to survive in that avalanche?
mhm, mhm. Yep.
Um,
I think it takes a lot of marketing efforts, and
yeah.
to stand out in the crowd, because when we are saying the online space, the online space is like so damn crowded,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, there's like a hell a lot of crowds over there in the online space. So I think to stand out in the online space, I think you've got to really market yourself, or probably brand yourself as an author, and then it's like, oh, okay, people got to really see you, or else I think we are going to sync with so many other authors out there, right? So in terms of making money, when you say, yes, I mean, being rich and being known is one thing, but making money is another thing, right? So uh, yeah, so talking about your the reviews that you have gotten for your books, right, for the Beta Chronicles, tell us one of the reviews that you can actually remember, or probably the most memorable reviews that you have ever
Oh, some
gotten.
of the early ones. One I really treasure was written by Raymond Benson. He was the one. He wrote a lot of the James Bond continuation novels.
Mm-hmm,
He's written a lot of the books since then, but he was one of the ones that wrote a really glowing review right off the bat, which really gave me a lift. Blind only came out. There was about a series of 10 reviews in a row that I just loved. And everybody. Sometimes I'm reading reviews and I'm wondering what book did these guys read. I can't figure. Then on Amazon drives me crazy because they'll tear down reviews. Because I remember there's one reviewer who, over the course of several books, mentioned that Jolin was a favorite character of his, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Bloody reviews down. I think they're still at Goodreads. I'm not really sure.
mm-hmm.
Um, but the ones that talk about the originality of the series are the ones that I appreciate most. That take this book on because you're going to go places you didn't think. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm original. That's just the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Immerse yourself in a world that I forgot the rest of the tagline, but got a lead magnet that starts off that way.
Yes, right. Yeah. So How do you actually coming to negative reviews or probably constructive criticism from your reviewers? How do you actually deal with it? Have you ever received
Oh yeah.
any feedback like that before?
Yeah, oh yeah. I've had people complain about the language, and I accept that and I expect that to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think there's been some reviewers a tad unfair. Like I said before, when I got people who were telling me about some scientific things I needed to fix, I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Like
I
the
thought
doctor?
I was going to say multiple dimensions. And
Mm-hmm.
so dealing with dimensions, you're dealing with different universes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good point. Change this, and changed everything. Started talking about the multiverse rather than different dimensions. Okay, great. That kind of feedback I appreciate and I love and I adore. Sometimes I remember one reviewer that out there saying that the book was really badly edited. Proof,
Mm-hmm.
thinking no, it's not. It had several editors and proofreaders go over that from the publishers end. I
Mm-hmm.
think that those guys don't realize that the language is intended to be different. That
Uh-huh.
the dialect is not normal English and not intended to be. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
recognize that, then yeah, then you might think it's strange. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what else in terms of reviews?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I like it when reviewers hit on a particular character that they like,
Uh-huh.
um, or hit on a specific aspect of it. Malcolm seems to be the character that most resonates, which kind of surprises me, but okay.
Uh-huh.
Because of his blindness, because of the fact he has to cope with all the things that he has to cope with throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my girlfriend once told me a couple of weeks ago she likes book 5 the best because she thinks it's the most sci-fi. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's an interesting observation.
Right. So talking about nonfiction books, and then you started off writing nonfictions, and then you got bored with it. You said and then you suddenly you started writing sci-fi and things like that. So, uh, did you ever thought that you're gonna write this genre, sci-fi,
No,
from nonfiction to sci-fi? Because I am a nonfiction writer. I've not really tried writing anything fiction before, but looking at a couple of authors that I've actually observed before, I think I've seen one or two authors actually swaying away from nonfiction books to fiction books, and I was just wondering how is this ever possible? So tell us a little bit about that.
well, the big surprise to me was that it went to sci-fi because after writing all those nonfiction books on spy stuff, I've
Hmm.
had people ask me, why haven't you written spy stories?
Hmm.
Why that direction? Well, I don't know. It just happened.
Hmm. Hmm. So you were open. You were kind of like open to try
Yeah,
different genres.
yeah. Well, I still am. Yeah, lately, I created the character Mary Carpenter, who's in our Earth 40 years in the future, and because of the circumstances of our planet that I've created,
Uh-huh.
you can get into lots of espionage stories. So
Ah.
do that. And then I don't know, for some reason, decided that I would get a new group of characters all together and
Mm-hmm.
go back to Beta Earth and have them involved in the Almond War and their kind of resistance cell. I got one story that's out there that you can find. It's called The Wayward Missiles.
Mm-hmm.
One now is, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's got that same thing. Or it's, mystery stories and detective stories and espionage. And, it's kind of fun. I didn't really, there is some of that in the first 5 books, but
Mm-hmm.
big plot theme for most of them is them being fugitives on the run, outcast, trying to protect the family from what the world wants from them and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but, a shift. Plus,
Right.
book cooking that's got nothing to do with any of that. Quasi autobiographical about my college days and my romances and relationships in the process of going blind.
Mm-hmm.
heavily
Mm-hmm.
fictionalized to protect the guilty, like Beethoven and the dead, because all of my friends have passed since then. It was the
Uh-huh.
70s. But it's not a genre book. So what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're waiting for me to figure out what I'm going to do with it.
Okay, right. So, all your books actually on Amazon. So,
Yes,
is it available? All of your books on Amazon? How many books? I mean,
yes.
right now, like about
Books
how?
and short stories
I'm sure,
because
sir. Yes.
Karina, a lot of the short stories, she gets a book cover for them and posts them up, and he puts them in all kinds of, I don't know what you call them. There's websites that you can sign
Mm-hmm.
up, get free stories, and sign up for people's
Oh
newsletters.
yes, newsletters. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, newsletter magnets or whatever. I don't know what the term for them is, but
Uh-huh.
a lot of my stories that away. A lot of stories on Kindle Unlimited that you can download.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and growing. I've got one that sent off to my kind of a
Mm-hmm.
I'm personal assistant for the month who's got it, and we'll see if I can get some beta readers. I'd like to get some beta readers involved in my stuff because I've been pretty much a one man band in terms of
Mm-hmm.
from beginning to
Right.
completions, me, and then after that, people get involved, but
Mm-hmm.
rarely anybody who helps out in the process.
Yeah, so I think you mentioning about beta readers, I have to tell the fact that I think using beta readers are so helpful
I believe it.
in terms of catching the mistakes even before the book actually goes for publication. So, have you ever started to use beta readers?
I would
Yeah.
like to.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Mm-hmm.
like to. I've gotten people to review the book after it's been out, but I've not had anybody read something before it's
Mm-hmm.
finished.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of the editors. Yeah, yeah, editors at Bear Manor.
Mm-hmm.
Years.
So I think one way authors can actually do this is to identify one or two readers who have been who are actually following you from the beginning, and I think you can actually ask them for a favor to review your book or probably read it. I think they'll be more than happy to actually very glad to read your book and give their honest feedback, right? So in this manner, I think even before your book goes to publication, probably they would be able to tell you what went wrong with the story or what is missing and what not. So in that case, those who are going to pick up your book, I think it would probably ensure that people are going to like your book. Those who could actually relate to your book will be able to definitely like your book, because I could understand that your book might not be for everyone, right? Okay.
Uh,
So, yes. So, but having beta readers would ensure that if they like the books, then probably readers like them, the other readers like them out there would also probably most probably like your book, right? So I think this really helps a lot in the process of getting your book out there and getting more positive reviews than negative reviews. So yeah, so Dr. Wesley, I think we are coming to the end of our interview today. So
wow.
before we end our session, it's been like a lovely 50 minutes with you right now. So tell us something that you would want to share with your readers out there. Where can they actually follow you, find you on Amazon, your website, and stuff like that? So yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Well, all 7 of the books are at Amazon. 6 of them are
Mm-hmm.
media, and Ben would love it if you'd go through get the books there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have a Facebook page, actually several. Beta-Earth Chronicles is the one that's oriented to the books. Sign
Mm-hmm.
up for the newsletter. That's where you can get links to getting free stories and stuff.
Awesome. All right.
You can get to that. It's drwesleyBritton.com, or if you just Google for my name, it'll come up right away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's something that everywhere. I've got a YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
trailers there. What else have I got? We're at LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook,
Mm-hmm. Twitter.
all kind. Yeah, there's a Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Uh, I lose
Right.
track. Yeah, I try every
So
just
yeah, but
Google for me. You'll find me all over the place. It's,
yeah. So yeah, predominantly, I think audiobooks will be up is already up on Amazon, right? So I
oh
think
yeah,
if anybody wants to get a copy of your book, they can
Kindle
just go to.
Unlimited. You can get them if that's your choice. Is Kindle stuff.
Awesome, awesome, cool,
You can
right?
download it.
Yes, okay,
29 cents
awesome.
for free. Yeah, yeah.
So
Get the letter, folks.
uh-huh, right. So anything that you would particularly want to tell your readers out there, like in terms of because I remember I could recall you saying that readers do not want to feel challenged when reading a book. They just want to go with the norm,
Well, that what I
right?
would say to that is that the first four books had all those alternating points of view.
Mm-hmm,
Five switched. It's
mm-hmm,
all one perspective and point of view. So, and it doesn't have the Beta dialect because it's not on Beta Earth,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Carpenter. So all of that difficulty is gone.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Book six, Return to Alpha. It's all our planet.
mm-hmm,
The next generation of Unburns, 40 years in their future.
mm-hmm,
So all of the things that might have thrown you off before won't.
mm-hmm,
And it's all been short stories, and some are pretty
mm-hmm.
fast moving, some are detective stories. Some are sexy, hey folks.
So probably I think readers should just read books with an open mind and just take new things from different perspectives, right? I think that works when they're reading your books.
That's a big thing with me. Other perspective, other points of view,
Mm-hmm,
versus like all the different cultures I was talking about earlier.
mm-hmm,
Big theme to it. In fact, that's one of the problems that happens to the next they come to our planet is that they're
mm-hmm.
not accepted very readily.
Uh-huh. Right. Okay. Cool. So let's just hope that readers out there would be picking up your book, not just your book, but the books of any other authors out there, and when they start reading, I hope they read it as it is, with an open mind, so that they get they could see things from different perspectives and not just confine their beliefs and their expectations to one thing. And then when they review things, when they review books, they tell you what it should be, rather
The
than what it
book
should
you
be.
didn't write, but
Yes, exactly. Actually, to be honest with you, this is the experience that we got from our editor. So we sent our book for editing, and what happened was that she got back to us saying that the book has to be written in a different manner because that is what she thinks is supposed to be written, like and we were like, no, I mean, she didn't really understood why the book is written the way it was written, and she was
some
trying to
editors are
change the
wonderful, others
whole.
are a pain.
Yeah, yeah, she was trying to change the whole structure of it. So,
Broke.
and
Uh,
I think, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an editor or a reader or a reviewer. I think when you read a book, I think you should read from the perspective of the author, of what the
right.
author is actually trying to say, right? You have to sink into their world and see things from there and then review it from there, and then not just reviewing things from your own perspective, which is, I think, very wrong, right? So
Uh,
it's like
doing
forcing
great.
your own opinions. It's like forcing your own thoughts into the works of others, which is very wrong, I think, right? So
One of
thank
the
you for highlighting.
compliments I get is I'm a well-regarded book reviewer.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
one thing that authors have told me is you got it.
Ah,
Understood what I was trying
awesome.
to do. And I think that is a wonderful compliment.
Awesome. Yes, I think that is what any reviewer or editor or anybody that is in the publishing world and they are helping authors out there. This is what they have to put into their mind. They have to always remember that they have to sink into the book and try to read it from the perspective of the author, the characters probably, and what is happening in their world, and not just give opinions based on what you think it should happen, or what you think it should be, it should have been, right? So
Yeah.
Dr. Wesley, in that sense, a huge congratulations to you, because you have made a lot of authors' lives so much happier, and probably so much easier with your reviews, right? Because you were able to, like you said, you were able to actually understand their point of view. So I think that is really wonderful. So if anybody out there who I know would like to get your review service, or probably would want to come to you to get a
Well,
review for their book, where do they, how do they actually can contact you?
Spywise, SPYWISE, one
Dot
word,
net.
all lowercase, at Verizon.net. And just so they know,
Ah,
my reviews go to bookpleasures.com, because that's kind
mm-hmm,
of my, and then I repost them all kinds of places. I don't really
mm-hmm,
Amazon, because they have that minimum book. I don't know.
correct.
I don't buy books. I review them.
Right. Yeah. I think,
um,
yeah.
but
Amazon has
get
its,
over Amazon, folks. There's other places that right where you can read. In fact, I think a lot of Amazon reviews are so breezy and thin,
mm-hmm,
and especially insightful that I can tell.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
There's a lot
right.
of other more literary places like Book Pleasures, where it's a more in-depth analysis of your books.
Uh-huh. Awesome. Right. So cool. Thank you for joining us today for this interview session, and I had a lot of fun talking to you, Dr. Wesley.
I
Really
appreciate
had
it.
a
Thank
lot
you
of.
for creating this venue.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope those who are watching this right now, I hope they've enjoyed our interview as much as I did. And the YouTube link for the interview replay will be available in a short while. And I'll be able to send it over to you, and also to the others on social media. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Wesley, and have a great evening.
You too. Thank again.
Thank you so much. Right, and hoping to see you again, and probably next interviews. So
All right.
have a good day until then, and keep in touch.
Same to you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley. Thank you. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good night.
Hi. Good night.
Good morning.
Bye.
Whatever
Yes, it's morning, and it's night for you. So good night.
Yep.
Right. Bye. See you soon. Right.